Okay friends, it's time to get started on replacing our ignition coil pack. If you were to look at ours, you can tell that there's a sticker that has numbers on it, and they tell you exactly where each one of the coil wires or spark plug wires needs to connect onto. Now if you still have your original wires on this, you're going to find that they still have the writing on them. This wire right here says spark plug wire number 2, which means that it leads to cylinder 2. And if you were to look at the rest of them, they're also labeled. But it's pretty common on this year, make, and model for the wires to already have been replaced. So typically, if that's the case, you can either mark them so you know exactly where they go, or just start replacing them one at a time. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come right back here to the farthest one towards the passenger side rear. I'm going to squeeze on the 2 ears of the wire itself and lift it up and off. Once I have it off of there, I always like to give it a good inspection. We're looking to see if we see any corrosion or damage. This looks fine. So with that said, I'll continue on with a little bit of dielectric grease. This is special grease that allows electrical transference through it. You don't want to use wheel bearing grease. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that onto my ignition coil. Now before you go ahead and just click it on anywhere, you want to make sure that you have the electrical harness facing towards the rear of the vehicle. If you were to put on the wires with it facing in the wrong direction, the car is not going to run at all. I'll line it up and I'm going to press it down until both ears click into position. Give it a little wiggle to make sure it's completely secured. Now I'll go ahead and set this aside, and I'm going to do the same to the other wires. There we are. Give it a little wiggle. Now that we have the 3 rearward wires off of here, let's continue on to the wiring harness. To remove the wiring harness, I'm going to carefully get underneath the forward ear and gently pull it away from the unit. Give it a close inspection for that corrosion. It's perfect. We'll set that aside. Now we're going to move along to our 4 7mm headed mounting bolts. You're going to find 2 of them right across the front. The other 2 are going to be pretty much in the same location, except on the back side of the coil pack. Remove all 4. Inspect those bolts as you remove them. If it looks like they're rusted, rotted, or damaged, go ahead and replace them. A quick note about this mounting bolt is as you pull it out, you're going to find that this is attached. It's extremely important to make sure that that gets reattached to the same exact spot when you install your brand new coil pack. Set that aside. Now we can carefully grab onto the coil pack, give it a little wiggle, and separate it from the engine. Now it's still attached to the 3 other spark plug wires, but we're going to pause on this coil pack, grab our new coil pack, and get ready to install it into the area. But before we do, clean up the bracket where the coil pack needs to sit. Now let's grab onto that brand new coil pack. You're going to notice where the connector is supposed to be, it already has a gasket in there. That's important to note, because if you were to look at your wiring right here, you want to make sure that you don't still have a gasket in there. You should only have one gasket. Keep that in mind. Let's take that coil pack and we're going to set it down and into position. While it's still loose in the bracket, I'm going to go ahead and reach around back and I'm going to slide in that connector. I'm going to listen for a click and then I'm going to give it a tug and try to pull it away just to make sure it does not disconnect. Let's listen for that click. There it is. Now I'm going to reach under here. I'm going to try to pull it right off of there as hard as I can. Once I'm sure that that's nice and tight, I'll continue on with my 4 mounting bolts. You're going to want to make sure that you inspect the threading area on these, and typically it's a good idea to use a little bit of copper never seize just along the very end of each of the threaded areas. Now we'll start putting all these in by hand. Now don't forget about this front corner. We want to make sure that we reinstall this piece as well. Once you have all 4 bottomed out, torque each of them to 53 inch-pounds. Now it's going to be time for our other 3 spark plug wires. Now, of course, the coil isn't laying in its original position, so you just want to have it in a way that you know exactly where each one of these coil wires goes. You cannot mix them up. You know what to do. A little bit of lubrication for each of them, and then lock them down and into position. Last one. Now at this point, you just want to double check each one of the wires. Make sure they're completely secured all the way around. We know that we torqued all of our mounting bolts. After that, go ahead and start it up. Make sure you don't have a check engine light. Take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.